record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night. The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No.
Hey there, viewer. What if I told you the robots are made with souls?
Oh boy.
I am sick again. Both of us are sick again. So you know what that means? It means that this video is probably going to blow up like the other time that I was sick and I was making one of these.
So we apologize for the sniffling and coughing and sounding nasal.
Yes, sorry about that.
A bad sickness.
So anyways, yes, this is welcome back to Children of the Void, a part 2 of 3. So today, like you said, you heard me, we're gonna be talking about potentially what the origins of all the robots are, and just talk about my crazy conspiracy that maybe they're being made using human souls.
Ooh, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Five Nights at Freddy's because Liam Vickers has been a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's in the past before, and I have to find the video. But he has composed, I don't know if he composed it or if he was simply using it for his creepypastas, but he does put Five Nights at Freddy's music in the background of a lot of his other stories. So the idea of robots being haunted in some way is not foreign to him. And we've even seen it with Murder Cube, with Internation Cube. There's a lot of soul-related stuff.
Well, it definitely sounds like something that's right up his alley because from the other stories you told me that he's done, and some of those that that you've introduced me to, that I've listened to some of them. Not fully because they're super long, but I've listened to snippets of them. It definitely sounds like something that would be right up his alley, that he would be interested in, or maybe, you know.
So let's start simple. So the robots were officially, as far as we're concerned, they're officially made by the company J.C. Jensen in space.
I feel like they're parodying.
It's a parody of Windex.
Oh, I was gonna say
it's the Windex
Johnson
logo.
& Johnson.
That too, but it's the Windex. It's essentially the Windex logo. Even Uzi mentions that we were enslaved in the name of Windex.
I'm gonna have to look at the Windex logo again.
It's also kind of fitting because Windex probably would be used by robots to clean their little screens.
I didn't think of that, yeah. Put some Windex on.
So they were made by the company of Jesse Jensen, and we don't know much after that. There's a lot of scattered information. There's some theories that I have. I think that it was Tessa's family who made them.
Oh, that makes sense, actually.
And who founded them. I'm gonna go into more detail.
They're the rich, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go into more detail on them on the next episode. But essentially, I think that family, that rich family, is the ones that founded the robots. I have some ideas. I think that her family's the one that founded them somehow. But the thing is, throughout the entire show, we have never been introduced to the idea of who was the original person that programmed them. We have no idea how they are programmed. We don't really know much about how they're made. Their bodies seem to be very basic, mechanic-wise. However, something that has always weirded me out throughout the show is just how much emotion and personality the robots have. They seem to want to be like humans.
I don't think you ever showed me that picture before, but it's very weird now that you mention it. The robots can't actually smoke, or they shouldn't smoke, and he has a pipe just like the classic, old man dad.
There's
And a
multiple.
suit.
There's jokes throughout the show, or at least the main one I'm thinking of is from the prom, where when they made the prom, they had a punch bowl, and they had a sign that specifically stated that they didn't drink punch, but that it was just the traditional decoration that they had. So they just do human things
Yeah,
because
they get happy.
yeah, they get
They get
traumatized. It's even
Yeah.
implied that Uzi's powers are affected by emotions. And again, it's really weird that the show has all these emotions and feelings, and it's
Yeah.
just but it's robot.
It's just very weird. They're very humanistic.
Right. And the thing is, they're supposed to have this special programming that's kind of weird, but again, throughout the whole show, we never get introduced or even have to get the idea of who specifically programmed it. We simply have to accept the fact that it was the company. But the thing is, the company, while humanity does seem to be very advanced in certain things, they don't seem to be that inept. It's the show seems to give us this idea that humanity was kind of like humanity from the Matrix, where they were being really greedy and they flew too close to the sun, but they're not portrayed as being geniuses that are like godlike, that gave true sentience to these machines. Now, it is kind of implied that maybe they knew that these machines were more emotionally vulnerable than what you would normally expect, and that they probably were mistreating them somehow. So they probably did knew that they were sentient in some way, and again, it's just the whole mistreatment or whatever. But that only makes it even weirder that they wouldn't mention who their programming creator is. Like the okay, so you hear me say the absolute sober, the phrase the absolute sober a lot. That is what the main villain AI thing calls itself. But it's also kind of implied that maybe that is like the primal coding that they have. That's the name, the absolute solver, like some kind of program that solves problems. And
Maybe, yeah.
but we don't know. We don't officially know.
Has anyone seen the Absolute Sovereign?
Well, yeah, you've seen it plenty of times. It's that weird crap thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, in one of the flashbacks with N, we get a scene with this character, with Sin. So, as far as we're concerned, Sin is supposed to be patient zero for the awakening of the evil AI thing. And in the flashback, we get taken to, where is it? A pile of dead robots. Hang on. So we get introduced to this massive dump, a pile of dead robots, and it's kind of implied that Tessa has been playing around out here,
And there's
getting
the crow.
a different crow.
Yeah.
But it's implied that this is where Tessa comes to get her robot parts and whatever. And in that same episode, there's a video footage.
Oh yeah, that's right. She doesn't actually. Well, that's weird now that I think about it. Her parents don't actually buy the robots for her. She just kind of Frankenstein's her own.
Yeah,
But they have the money to. But then
again, it's the whole show kind of implies that she's been abused in some way. So this scene, this is inside the the dump. Right. Oh, forgot this. So inside the dump, it's in the pile of bodies, of robot bodies, we see this tag, and we see a robot that's waking up. This is their screen. It's a cracked screen, and we can tell that this is Sin, SYN.
it also says marked for, I think it says disassembly.
Right. So whenever a robot starts malfunctioning or gets broken in some way, they mark them to be properly disposed of. And they have this really weird way of going about it, because in the videotape, the VHS tape, it specifically tells you not to show the tape to the robots or they'll freak out.
Why? What's on the VHS?
Well, it tells you how to properly euthanize them once they're out of their service. Because, again, we don't know too much information, but it's kind of implied that it's a big no-no not to do that when the robot breaks down. Because if you don't, sometimes they come back. They get rebooted, and it's like they're coming back from the dead, and they call them zombie drones. And zombie drones on their own are not harmful. The problem is, it seems that the company is aware that there is something tapping into the robots. Something that's trying to possess them, which, later took us to this. This is what happened. So, even though we think Sin might be patient zero, more than likely this already happened at some point, and they managed to stop them temporarily. This might even be the reason. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have to save it for the next episode. The point is, when Sin was waking up, this is her face, her screen face, and it's cracked or whatever. She seems to be having a conversation
I will not discard you.
with someone.
Is what sticks out to me.
I wanna see you will be here for something.
Yeah.
See you are blank, awful, sad. I see you are in. Basically, and then at the end, there's this command.
Oh, and it says absolute solver.
Absolute solver, and then it says axis, yes or no. It's like it's telling her, hey, will you let me in?
It's trying to manipulate her, being like, I will not discard you. I know you're very sad.
Right.
This is the absolute solver. Which, again, it's like, is it really the absolute solver, or is it someone pretending to be to get...
I still think it's something from space or from another dimension tapping into these robots. A lot of people a lot of people think that maybe there's something dangerous about their coding, where if left unattended, if it doesn't have the safeties on, then it goes rogue. But clearly that's not the case here. Because
something was trying to infiltrate.
Because something is talking to her,
Yeah.
So it's not something that was already inside of her.
It was something trying to get in, like a virus.
Now, another interesting little thing about that little scene is in the pile of robots in the show of murder drones. In the actual show, we see that the disassembly drones have been ordered to make piles of dead robots as well. So that's why a lot of people think that maybe this is preparing for some kind of ritual, and that maybe the rich folks that were just using these robots so casually, maybe they accidentally activated something. Maybe they allowed something in, and I think that this has to do with souls. I think that the show keeps making imagery to sort of make it look like robots and people are one and the same. For example, in the show, which does have to do with Five Nights at Freddy's, as you can see in the show, the humans are, and it could just be aesthetic thing, but notice how, for example, Tessa and her family have the same kind of white shiny eyes as the rest of the robots, the rest of the worker drones. And I find that a bit significant because in Five Nights at Freddy's, the animatronics at night, if you looked at them closely, and this was part of the story, you could see like little white eyes inside the animatronics, and it was implied that that was their soul, that was the soul trapped inside the animatronic. So I'm wondering if the show's trying to make that connection here, where it's showing this imagery where it's like, yeah, humans and the robots are one and the same, because it's the soul that's inside of it. And that would explain why the robots have all these different personalities and why they can become so traumatized and scared, that maybe it's people trapped inside the robots. And another, so let's go deeper. Let's go deeper into the idea. So we think that maybe Tessa's folks are the ones that made the robots somehow. When we get flashbacks into the mansion episode. Oh, and one more thing, because I'm getting ahead of myself. In that same flashback episode, we see this. N is reading a book about dogs, and he draws himself and V, and he's really bad at drawing. and he draws each other as like, I guess, dogs or animals or whatever. But apparently Jay at some point got a hold of his drawing and she drew herself. Something interesting about her drawing is that she portrays herself as human. She didn't draw herself as a robot.
But why does it say kill yourself?
Because she really hates Zen. But my point is, though, she portrayed herself as human. She doesn't see herself as a robot. But apparently N sees himself as a dog, which may or may not have, might be a reference to the original voice actor, who may or may not be a furry. I don't know. But
makes sense.
But so yeah, so let's go deeper. In that same episode, as soon as the flashback starts, we get a glimpse of the family library, and back here there are two things. There's a sign that says restricted, but you also see
why would the family library be restricted?
Right, hang on.
Or is that just the restricted
we see
section?
that this could be V, but I think it's a different robot that's paralyzed because they're getting corrupted or whatever. But the point is, the library is restricted, or at least a big part of the library is restricted, and that's really weird to have.
See, to me, but now I'm very curious as to what kind of books and what kind of information is in the restricted section.
I'm trying to pull something.
Because there has to be something juicy for it to be in the restricted section.
Okay, so hang on. Let me make sure I pulled everything up that's important for this next thing. Okay, so we know that throughout even though the memories are a bit fuzzy for N, we know that someone or something was messing with weird rituals in Tessa's house and with the robot. So a part of me thinks that maybe Tessa was using some kind of occult shenanigans to fix her pet robots, right? And for example, this is press the wrong thing. Oh, here we go. So this is the basement in the library, and obviously this is where like the really weird experiments were going on.
Yeah.
And Liam Vickers has confirmed that the disassembly drones were not made by humans. So it's implied. So here's what I think the show's implying. Because
so were the disassembly drones made by other drones, by other robots?
It's kind of implied that Sin made them. But here's the thing, and this is something that Design kind of did, and I think that they're copying or getting this from Design. I think that Sin, whether it was on purpose or a byproduct of the craziness that was going on, made the disassembly drones, and originally they were these like bad creature things, these weapons. And I think that the company, being greedy and power hungry, they modified them so that they could keep control over them, or at least some kind of control, because in Design they had to do all these different things to weaponize the girls, where they would like lobotomize them and put all these chemicals and weird stuff. And but the thing is, they would take out so much that the girl would no longer be as efficient at killing those kinds of monsters. So they would try to compensate by giving them other kinds of weapons and technology to compensate for the loss of power. And in Murder Drones, I think that's what's happening with the disassembly drones, because a lot of people have been speculating on that as to why the disassembly drones were made and why does it seem that they might have been crippled in some way. And I think that's what it is. I think that the humans came in, they wanted to copy this technology because they were lazy and greedy, and that's why the disassembly drones have all these go-go gadget gizmos to compensate for the lack of power that they don't have anymore. Because in episode 6, like we saw with the Sentinels are those raptor robot things, we know that the humans weren't fully trusting of the disassembly drones, that they clearly thought that they might turn on them at some point. So I think that's what's going on, and I think that's why the Absolute Sober is acting weird in the show. I think because a lot of people are saying, okay, well, if Sin or the Absolute Sober are in control of the disassembly drones, why not just sort of snap their fingers and be like, yeah, kill Uzi, kill everybody in the show, take over the world or whatever. And I think the reason why it can't do that is because of whatever safeties the humans put in originally. So I think there's a lot going on. And I think a big part of it has to do with greed. Because greed seems to be a big theme in the show, and I think ultimately that just humanity kept messing with things that they didn't understand. I think maybe that's the reason why we haven't heard anything about a creator, because the only one we've seen make things is the evil AI. So I think the company was just copying whatever it was making and trying to put enough safeties to protect themselves from. But eventually it backfired. I even believe that is the reason why Copper 9 blew up. I think that they were creating super weapons to try to fight the Absolute Silver, and it was like, I can't have that. So it sabotages their whole operation and gets them killed. And that would explain why in the show it sends down all these disassembly drones to start killing all the robots, because it knows that some of them, like Uzi and Doll, have superpowers, and it wants to get rid of it. Because a lot of people think that Uzi's infected and that she's going to become part of the hive mind of the Absolute Sober, but the more I look at it, the more I'm starting to realize that the show is implying, even with its music, that Uzi could ascend to some kind of godhood. Yeah. And I think the villain of the show is trying to prevent
the wings to me, whenever she does that episode where she grows the wings, has that weird transformation. My first thought was this looks really angelic, or with things going wrong, it could be real that she's gonna be some kind of fallen angel.
Right, and even a design, that was another common theme about it: angel or demon kind of thing, and your own decisions. So let's keep going though. Like I said, there's a bunch of weird stuff. We know that Tessa's folks are probably from somewhere deep in the South, like Alabama, Mississippi. What's the other swampy places?
Because of how swampy it looks, I think either Louisiana or Georgia.
Right, and let me ask you this: throughout in Murder Drones, a lot of the superpowers are jokingly referred to as robot magic, and even Uzi herself refers to herself as a witch at times. So, and then you look at all these weird symbols and Tessa's family and the South or whatever. What kind of magic is synonymous with the South?
Voodoo.
And what is voodoo known for?
A lot of like witchcraft and satanic stuff.
The manipulation of souls.
Yeah, that too.
So I think that Tessa's family, whether it was her dad or someone in the bloodline, I think that they used some kind of they found something, some kind of ritual, because even I can't think of. There's this horror movie where these not the plantation owners, but these slaves from the plantation learn some weird voodoo stuff, and they start switching bodies with the kids, the local kids, so that they could stay young forever or whatever. There's a lot of horror. There's a lot of southern horror that relates to the swapping of souls. So I wonder if somebody greedy figured out that they could put souls in dolls or in inanimate objects or whatever.
So that they could live on forever. Not
live on forever, but to have slaves, to have workers, infinite workers. And something...
That's a very interesting theory, and I can't see that.
I think so. I think her family was messing with stuff for profit. Which, if you think about it, and I've always said this, I've always said that I hope humanity never identifies the afterlife, because I know they're going to do something bad with it. It's the ultimate form of greed. It's like you find out that the afterlife is real or that souls are real, and the first thing you do is profit from it. You know, it's but but anyways, where am I going with this? Right. So souls trapped. I think maybe that's why the Absolute Soldier wanted them dead. Because, again, that robot, that machine could have killed her parents at any time. But it specifically waited for the gala, where a lot of the relatives would show up at the same time. So I think it was an assassination more than anything. More than likely, Earth is gone. I do believe that. But I think there's just, throughout the show, it's been just non-stop assassinations of this thing trying to stop humans or just keep him from meddling. I don't know. In the teaser for the next episode, remember that there's a cathedral.
Oh, yeah.
And even Uzi's holding a crucifix. So religion and spirituality seem to have some kind of connection here with these machines. And it would explain why they're so emotional and why they seem to seek to be like people again.
Yeah,
and why
there's definitely a weird religious aspect to it.
So,
which again, to me, sounds very humanistic instead of robotic, because robots are machines. They shouldn't really, in my mind, they shouldn't really worship anything. I mean, they serve humans, but they shouldn't, like, worship anything. So the fact that there's a cathedral and all that, something's up. You know
yeah.
What I mean?
So that's what and I remember where this is going to. So if these robots are being possessed by spirits or whatever, or they're being used with souls, something that's a bit of a common trope or an archetype when it comes to fiction and magic is that whenever the soul is outside of the body, it becomes exposed to other things. Or for example, again, I don't remember exactly what show or movie it was, but if the robots have something in them that allows them to get possessed by spirits or souls or whatever, then maybe other things from the other side can mess with them. And I think maybe that's where the Absolute Soul comes from. This being that's like, ooh, look at all these empty shells with souls coming in and out.
It's very tempting, and whatever the Absolute Soul is, it's not good. It's some kind of evil.
Well, that would also explain why the piles of bodies of robots would matter so much. Because in theory, they would just be junk, and that's it. But it seems that the pile of dead robots attracts this thing. And I don't think it's just because, it's robots. I think it's because these machines have something special in them. That's like that pile of robots is like the equivalent of a pile of human bodies.
Yeah.
That's attracting this evil.
Yeah. Weird.
So yeah, that's the theory. I think that they're made with human souls.
I definitely agree with your theory. And, I mean, all the evidence that you've presented backs it up. And yeah, it's definitely Five Nights at Freddy's-ish. But, yeah, that sounds right up Liam's alley from what I know of Liam so far. I mean, you know him better than I do. But, it makes sense to me. Now,
another thing that I want to point out before we go, when it comes to the personalities, the human aspect, and the lobotomization that I was talking about. So you know how these guys will do like the X in their face when they're going ape mode? So the X, there's a lot of different reasons for the X, but something that the fans have noticed, especially because of episode 1, they're not themselves when they have the X. Yeah. It's like a very feral mode that they get.
Didn't Uzi get that when she started glitching out?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even Uzi lost control and started killing all her classmates.
It seems like a very primal type mode.
It's primal, and it seems that it makes them forget things, or that they're not fully conscious about what they're doing. So I think that whatever it is that they gave them, I think that the humans installed something so that they wouldn't have regrets or wouldn't hesitate to kill.
It seems to be more like full on animalistic rage, kind of like when you go to the zoo and you see animals like fighting over territory or getting mad because like this other male is trying to flirt with your female or whatever. Like it seems very. But the thing is, it doesn't seem like the rage is really like when they're in that mode. It doesn't seem like it's triggered by anything. They just want to attack everybody.
Yeah. Now, another thing is, in episode 6, we see that there's a huge conflict between V and Tessa. V does not trust Tessa at all. Like, she had a knife to her face at one point. So, I think that, which gives more credence to my whole theory that Space Tessa is actually a fake, that it's not the real her. But my point is, I think that these robots, even the disassembly drones, have their own personalities and emotions, but they've been messed with from both the Absolute Solver and the humans to be not necessarily entirely lobotomized, but very close to it, so that they can serve a certain bidden.
But think about it. If you've been messed about by, humanity, which covers a large portion of the Earth, and then this other supernatural being called the Absolute Solver, you would be extremely paranoid of everyone that you meet too, especially just the one human that you do come in contact with after what appears like all the humans are gone. And I'd be paranoid if I was a weird emotional robot and I had been messed about with and tormented by humans and that other Absolute Solver, like I said, which I believe is some kind of supernatural being, and humans were just basically gone. The next time that I saw one, I would be extremely paranoid and suspicious, and I'd probably do the same thing, hold a knife to her face and be like, what the F do you want? Why are you here? You know what I mean? I would ask questions. I would start asking questions.
Yeah, this is a picture of them working, and one of them getting crushed by a machine while the humans laugh. Yeah. Which makes me wonder how strong they really are.
Yeah, because those things look pretty heavy that they're carrying. What is that? It looks like boxes of something like coal or something.
Well, it's copper 9, so mining. Oh, speaking of which, I think that the family has a globe of copper 9. I can't tell.
Oh, that's right. They're not on Earth anymore. That planet.
Well, no. And this is from the episode where they're in the South. So, okay. But they do have this globe that the camera pays a lot of attention to, and I think it might be copper 9.
That's right. Copper 9's the one that, exploded or something, right?
Yes, I think. I don't know. I might be.
And that's what they were mining and using the robots to mine.
Yeah. But Sin is a whole different case. We'll talk more about her in the next episode.
Oh, did I ever point this out before in a podcast about the Copper 9, Cloud 9 thing?
You did, yeah.
I did? Okay. Just making sure I couldn't remember.
Well, like I said, I gotta save more Sin stuff for the next episode. Okay. But yes, Souls, Five Nights at Freddy's, Southerners enslaving souls and robots. The Yankees wanna
just like enslaving.
The Yankees wanna take her planet rights away, Honeybound.
They want to take our robot slaves away. How dare they?
Who else is gonna clean the toilets?
Who else am I going to manipulate and have my borderline personality disorder
I thought you were gonna say.
Rage.
I thought. I thought you were gonna say who else is gonna have like my bastard children.
Yeah, who else is gonna have my bastard children? Who's gonna make me my sandwich when my...
Sorry. Freaking
Okay?
sickness. Yeah.
I don't know. It's the robot civil war, Snowball Bear. They want to take our robot slaves. We're gonna have to fight. We're gonna have to fight because who else is gonna
Yeah.
be on our
Instead.
side?
Yeah. No. It's they want us to be civilized and import our slave labor to third world planets.
How dare they?
How dare they?
Yeah.
We do this at home.
That's right.
Alright, that's enough. Hopefully we won't get canceled.
If you have a bad day and wanna come home and beat your robot, who's to take that right away from